Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I just want to do like a sort of, I don't know, finger on the pulse. Let's do a little physical, a little checkup on PvP in Destiny 2 right now in the current season. I want to come out of the gate, before I show a statistic, I want to come out of the gate and say, you know what? I think this season is not too bad. I mean, I have some complaints here and there, some minor things that I think have a bigger, they're like small things that have a big impact, you know what I mean? That I think that they should probably be addressed. But talking about the overall feel of PvP right now, I don't think it's too bad. Obviously, we have some balanced stuff that I want to talk about today. We have some playlist stuff I want to talk about today. But all in all, I'm still having fun. And when I'm in a decent lobby and connections are decent, I'm having fun. So I'll probably do another video where I talk specifically about comp this season. Is it worth your time? Is it good? Is it better than it was last season? I'll kind of break all that down. But for today, we're just kind of do a sort of broad sweeping generic checkup on PvP. So let's start with this statistic here. So this is, I've got graphs from the right before the dawning event happened, and I've got graphs that are current. That way we can see if there's been any effect that the event has had on where the player base is spending their time. But if we remember historically, it was sort of a general percentage was like 45%, right? 45% of the population in Destiny 2 was actively playing PvP. Okay, just bear that in mind. These are the current numbers according to Charlemagne tracking the population. So this was just before the dawning kicked off. So without the, with the event maybe pulling people away from PvP, making them focus their time on PvE activities to get the ingredients for their baking. So without that being a factor, we're looking at about 5.5% of players spending time in PvP. So story missions were at 30%, patrols were at 27%, strikes at 11%, and nightfalls at 8%. PvP falling behind all of that at 5.5. The wildest, I think, statistic in there is that you're looking at basically the same amount of people are playing the end game PvE content in the form of raids, and there isn't even a new one this season, right? There's the same amount of people roughly playing raids as there are playing the accessible to everybody, even free-to-play accounts, PvP. That's wild to me. The same number of people playing end game PvE content that's designed to be extremely challenging. You have to like go out of your way to get a team together to do it. And then you have the same amount of people playing PvP. Yeah. And that includes comp. That was actually during the Iron Banner. When we actually had loot to chase, a really good auto rifle. You know what I mean? That's wild to me. And then if we look at current percentages for, the last couple of days, in the thick of the dawning event, the numbers look like this. Crucible at that flat 5% actually dropped off a little bit. Same percentage of people doing raids. So all in all, I think it's pretty safe to say that whatever's going on right now, or maybe even what isn't going on right now in PvP, is not working for the majority of people. Because we used to see a lot more people actively engaged with PvP than that. And I can tell you, I feel this in real time. I mean, I've been doing live streams a lot lately, and so everyone's had a front row seat to see it. But my lobbies basically end up being the same people, day after day after day, hour after hour after hour. I see the same names, and that goes for Checkmate control, that goes for standard control, that goes for whatever the rotator mode is, that's connection-based matchmaking as well, which is wild to me that in connection-based matchmaking, I'm seeing the exact same people. Even when it goes to a mercy rule and it breaks the teams apart, all it does is it takes that lobby and says, hey, that wasn't working, let's break them apart. And then it's like, let's find a match. Oh, we've got these two groups of people, let's put them. Would you look at that? So it's, the player population is very, very shallow right now. Used to be pretty deep, had a deep pool to pull from, now we're in the shallows. And so we're spread pretty thin, like butter scraped over too much bread, says Bilbo Baggins. I think that this is really a fallout of the seasonal model just continuing to run its course. You see that people are really just logging in to engage with the story content as it develops, and then disengage. I think this formula had good intentions, but I also think that a lot of us saw this coming and made these predictions. Like, this is where we're headed. If this is how we continue to develop this game, that it's really just catered predominantly towards the person that just wants to log in and do something real quick and log out, then the hallmark experiences like PvP are going to get pushed to the wayside, and the populations are going to continue to diminish. So even though I think this season is actually not too bad, I really think it's just player fatigue kicking in. I don't think that there's something terrible going on this season per se that's forcing people out. I can say that I've actually had a lot of fun. So I, just like I told people I would do, took a couple months off Destiny, covered some other games, and while I'm waiting on the next title that I want to cover to come out, in the meantime, I'm back on the Destiny grind until that title comes along. And so I've been playing a lot recently, and I've been making builds, reviewing guns, playing around with weapons I've never used before, and perk combinations. Honestly, it's pretty fun. But I also want to call attention to another factor that I think is probably a big one. I think this is a big factor. I could be wrong. I would love to see specific data from Bungie. And if they want to provide it, I think that would actually be helpful for helping people understand what's going on. But I think that the current playlist experience for PvP is not good. I think it's just flat out not good. Can I quantify that? Can I qualify that? Yes. Let me break that down a little bit. So here you go. This is the current layout of things as of today when you open up the PvP node. The two focal points are comp and checkmate. Okay? That's where Bungie has decided they really want people to focus. So they're trying to push you into those specific playlists. They're front and they're center. So you're either going to do comp or you're going to default to checkmate control. Now you have some peripheral options. They're much smaller and they're on the edges of the screen. They're not front and center. Bungie's not trying to push them on you. You have supremacy this week, which I think supremacy is actually a really fun game mode. I really like it quite a bit. It's connection-based matchmaking. But my experience, and people on my live stream can back this up, this week is that the player population there is really tiny because that's not where Bungie's trying to force people to go, right? It's not the main avenue. It's not the main thoroughfare. So because of that, I'm matching the same people over and over and over again. And yesterday was just one of the sweatiest days of PvP I have had. Like I couldn't do fun off meta stuff. I had to play basically my comfortable builds that I'm really, really well rehearsed in order to keep up because it was all Peacekeeper SMG Titans. It was Thorn Shotgun Hunter, Strand Hunters, Threadlings everywhere, Threaded Specters everywhere. It was just, holy cow, so freaking sweaty. It felt like, honestly, it felt more competitive, like more intense than my Trials weekend did. Trials this weekend I thought was actually really fun. I had a bunch of fun in Trials this weekend. I don't know what it was, but I love Javelin 4 as a map, but for some reason I don't like it in 3v3. I tend to play really poorly. Maybe it's just my play style, but I actually had a really fun weekend there. But yeah, Supremacy was like way more intense. The connection-based matchmaking location, way more intense. That's because it's a peripheral thing. But let's talk about Checkmate. Listen, it's no secret that I don't really care for Checkmate. I've been pretty forward about that. I think that it's boring, it's slow. It's not an explosive playlist. I like Destiny when it's loose and fast. And it's slow and controlled. And some people really like that. And I'm not trying to undermine that or undercut that at all. Some people love a slower, more controlled pace. And I think that's fine. I wouldn't mind if Checkmate was something that was available every week for the people who love it. But I think that it's a bad choice to have it be the main thoroughfare where you want the overwhelming majority of your player base to be focused. Because Destiny is space magic. It's loose and fast when it's at its best. I mean, Bungie has even openly agreed with that notion historically and said, you guys are absolutely right. And then we got the Go Fast update, stuff like that really increased the pace in PvP. And they reduced respawn timers as well with that update. So it was really about just making PvP feel more fast-paced, fun, chaotic. And Checkmate, to me, dials all of that back in, says, slow down with your abilities. Hey, slow down with your pushes because you don't have your special ammo right out of the gate to do that with. So we're going to be shoulder to shoulder. We're going to lane. We're going to play passive. We're going to do team fire. And those are all of the things that we said we didn't care for with the launch of Destiny 2. So I think that Checkmate Control, while I don't think that it's a horrible mode, I don't really care for it because the pace gets dialed back to a grinding halt. It's a snooze fest to me. I get a lot of comments from people like, well, you just need to get better at it. Like, listen, that's not the problem. Like, I top frag my lobbies in Checkmate Control almost all the time, just like I do everywhere else. But I do so with 20 final blows, 20 kills across 10 minutes of gameplay. That is boring. And so I think that having that be the focal point where you're trying to get everybody to play for the first whole month of a brand new season where we have new artifact mods we want to play with, we've got new abilities we want to try out, We've got ability focused builds that we want to play around with. Everything just gets slowed down there, and it's just not that kind of environment. It's more slow, more tactical. Not to mention it really does cater towards hand cannons almost exclusively. Hand cannons and bows. So the variety is even toned down there. I get all these people who are like, oh, the primary gunplay is so good in Checkmate. I'm like, your lobbies are not mine then, because it's basically bows and hand cannon spamming with team fire for the first couple of minutes. And then after that, everyone snowballs with special. So that's kind of where it goes for me. But all this to say, I think this is a poor choice. I think to have the focal mode for the first full month of a brand new season to be something that is categorically not Destiny-like is a weird choice to me. Just weird. So now we've got that as the main thoroughfare. We also have 5 other playlists, and so the player base is getting stretched even more thin across all these different experiences. And so it makes for, even in connection-based matchmaking, you may have to sacrifice in the connection department, and I certainly have, because your pool is just much smaller. And sometimes I have people from the studio break it down for me, and they're like, this is how the system works. And I'm like, that sounds fine. I mean, honestly, the system itself sounds fine, and I think it would work fine if our player base wasn't so dang small. If we had bigger pools, and a lot of times people will point to, like, the overall population size in PvP, and they're like, oh, look at how many tens of thousands of people logged in. It's like, sure, but in real time it plays out a little bit differently, because Bungie has really been forcing this model where it's log in, get your thing, log out. So people aren't staying engaged with PvP, and they're spread throughout the entire day. So your pool, while the total might be big, your pool, it might be like long and shallow rather than short and deep. You know what I mean? So I think the number of playlists as well is also having an impact, because all those players, again, they are getting divvied up based on the time that they're playing, based on their skill brackets, depending on what playlist they're in, the time of day that they're engaging with PvP, and how long they're playing PvP. And I know I'm anticipating these comments. I always get these comments. People are like, well, you can select regular control. You don't have to play Checkmate. Listen, I know that because I follow Bungie's social media accounts. But if you do not, if you're just like a regular old Joe who just fires up the gameplay, you don't sit there and read all the blog posts and follow them on Twitter, you just play video games, you're not going to know that. And some people are like, yeah, you are. Like, we've been going into that sub menu to select different difficulty levels in raids and in nightfalls for years now. I'm like, yeah, sure, but we have never once in the history of Destiny ever had to do that in PvP. It's not something you're looking for. You don't even think about it. You just click on a playlist and hit launch. Nobody clicks on a playlist in Crucible and thinks, oh, let me modify the difficulty. Like, that's just not something that we do, right? So far off of our radar. So that, I think, is a terrible alternative, and that's not just word, that's also Indeed, because I have, again, live on stream, tried to queue in the control playlist, and the queue times are forever long. I have recorded queues that are 8 to 10 minutes long, several of them. Why? Because I'm petty like that, and I thought maybe I'd need to prove a point sometime. But I've got I posted one of them on Twitter, actually. I was like, listen, this is what it is to all of you people who are like, just go play regular control if you don't like Checkmate. I'm like, this is how that actually plays out. One of my matches ended up being I queued into a 1v6. That was exciting. Posted that one as well. That was fun. And then earlier this week, I tried again to play regular control. Ended up playing the exact same people for an hour and a half straight, even when it was breaking up the lobbies due to multiple mercy rules. It was rough. So if that's the experience for a seasoned player and that's not enjoyable, think about the person that just wants to log in and get their stuff and log out. They're going to be like, this ain't fun. Why? I don't think I want to do this anymore. And that is why you get these numbers. 5%. Listen, it ain't great. It doesn't help that the ritual weapon this time around is the Retrofuturist. Yeah, for all of you PvP enthusiasts, no. I mean, of all the weapons you could have brought back to get people excited to play PvP. I mean, you didn't like the Anonymous Autumn, right? I know I'm biased. Put the Anonymous Autumn in there instead of the friggin' Retrofuturist. Neither here nor there. Again, with Trials, I think the Incisor is a super cool trace rifle, but again, it's not something that most PvP people are going to be excited about. It's kind of a niche thing. I love it, and I'm very glad that it's here this season, but I think for the overall community in PvP, they're probably a little uninterested. So there are actually a number of other factors that I have listed down that I could talk about, but I think that they're just like, it's just a bunch of small things adding up, right? I could talk about threaded Spectre spam and threadling spam. I could talk about the fact that Bungie is ready to quadruple down on friggin' Dominion being the Trials game mode. So every team has to have a well and a bubble. You know what I mean? It's like there are so many small things that just pile up to make the experience not so great. You know, I was thinking one thing they could do, and I know that they could do it. One of these weekends when Trials is up, one thing they could do that would just be kind of crazy, do a shadow drop on a new map. They told us that these new maps are really kind of focused on bolstering the map pool for 3v3 environments and really getting away from these huge maps they've been giving us, which is a great change, by the way. But like they used to do this early in the game, right? They would do this with they did it with Iron Banner once, where they're like, surprise, here's a map. They did it with the very first raid. Remember the very first raid? You know, as soon as the first team beat Callus, they were like, by the way, Emperor's Respite, brand new PvP map ready to go right now today. That was cool. And I know a lot of people didn't really love Emperor's Respite. I actually really liked that map. Like, I liked that map a lot. Not only that, but I think it was the best Rumble map in the history of Destiny. Neither here nor there. But you get what I'm saying. Like, one of these new PvP maps they've been working on, I don't want to say more than I should, but I'm pretty sure they have the ability to just one of these days be like, it's ready. Boom. Here's one of them. And I know they want to do the whole map pack thing and drop like 3 or 4 at once, which I think is also a great idea. And I'm really looking forward to that. But at the same time, like, I think it would be kind of a cool thing just to bolster numbers for a little bit. People would be like, yo, that's kind of cool. Hey, a new PvP thing, launched with Trials, bolster the numbers, get people playing. I don't know. All in all, I think that if Bungie could increase the player population in PvP, a lot of this stuff would be better. If they would, in my opinion, stop with freaking Checkmate. And they say, listen, we saw great feedback. People were like, we really like Checkmate. And I'm like, yeah, sure. But that's a completely different sentence than I want Checkmate Control to be the standard PvP game mode for a month straight. I mean, that's very different than, hey, I kind of like this. So to wrap things up, I want to know, are you still engaging with PvP? If you are, to what degree are you still engaging with PvP? Is it as much as you used to? Is it less than you used to? More than you used to? What's keeping you engaged? If you disengaged, why did you disengage? Let me know in the comment section below. Why is it that you feel less drawn to PvP? So I think that obviously I don't speak for everybody. I speak only for myself and my experiences. And I love to use my channel as a place where we can have conversations that I can kind of bounce ideas off of you guys, hear what your thoughts are, and kind of come up with, okay, well, what's the consensus, generally speaking, in the community? Because I know that I don't speak for everybody, and my opinions aren't always the consensus. So I want to keep my finger on the pulse and make sure that I'm in touch with what you guys actually think and feel too. Hey, thanks for watching the video. And thanks, to the hundreds of you, by the way. Even though my last video, Destiny interest is down. Like, you look at Google Trends, like, the amount of people actually going out of their way to search for Destiny content is like at an all-time low. And I mean all-time low. So that video didn't do great. But those of you who did engage with it, thank you so much, because hundreds of you hit the sub button on that video, which was super cool, because I told you guys I'm really close to that 300,000 mark. And I've not been able to crest that hill yet. I've been kind of stuck there. So I appreciate you guys. If you frequent the channel and you haven't subscribed and you chose to do so in that video, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Hey, cheers everybody. Be warm and well fed. And I do hope to catch you in the Crucible. Bye-bye.